And welcome back to Naruto Pokemon team videos. Spoilers, you saw the title. This one today is what is Naruto's Pokemon team? Now this one, it's zombie, I think like 45, 54, something like that. I can't remember the actual name, unfortunately. I did not write it down, sadly, so I'll just put it in the description below. But yeah, you're asking, what is Naruto Uzumaki's team? Believe it! It burns when I pee! Now, if you're wondering where that came from, oh god, where did that come from? I remember watching something years ago when Naruto was still actually like in its infancy in terms of like the anime and all that, where we were barely in shipping, I think. And someone was making a joke at Naruto's expense about, how he's always saying, believe it! And just, throwing other catchphrases and that kind of positivity. And it's like, go to hell! It's like, you can do it! It burns when I pee! So that's where that joke came from. But yeah, so what do I think Naruto's Pokemon team is? Well, let's just get into it. So there's two ones immediately. We just got to get out of the way right here and now. So number one, there's got to be a Ninetales on his team. There has got to be a Ninetales on his team. And the reason for that is obvious. He holds a nine-tailed demon Bijou fox in his belly. Well, not anymore, spoilers, but I'm not going to go into that for Boruto. All you need to know is that there's a grift in the relationship, and that's all you really need to know. Unless you don't care about Boruto spoilers, in which case I'll spoil it right now, but I'm not going to. But yeah, obviously a nine-tailed fox is what I'd have to include that in there. And I mean, because it's Pokemon, and the Pokemon anime is, much more varied and, willing to be different than the Pokemon games are. You can have other variants of shinies in the Pokemon anime than you can in the game. So screw it. Let's just say that this is a red Ninetales Pokemon. So it can be the Ninetales Fox officially. So there you go. The other obvious one that has to be thrown in there is Greninja. Naruto has the Toad summoning contract, so he needed a frog or Toad on this team. That was a given. And I have plenty, and there's actually a fair amount of frog Pokemon like this. There's the Poliwag line. Admittedly, it would be either Poliwhirl or Poliwrath or Politoad. Politoad would probably actually be the better option. There's also obviously the Seismitoad line. I know there's more frog Pokemon than that. There's obviously Toxicroak and Krogunk. And Heatran is, when you really look at it, based on a frog. But let's not mince words. It's a ninja frog. I had to use Greninja. There's sometimes the obvious choice is the right choice, at least in my opinion. And it just makes sense. Now, granted, the whole tongue scarf thing, that's not much of Naruto, but whatever. Greninja and Ninetales. Those were the two obvious ones. But believe it or not, Naruto's team was actually kind of tricky for me to design. And you might be asking, well, why is that? I mean, you gotta have a Pokemon that probably represents Rasengan, his wind, his ability to use the wind chakra, his relationships, all that. It's like, well, no, not necessarily. The Rasengan and the wind chakra, I grant you. That one I had to work with. Shadow Clones, I had to work with. But in terms of relationships, yes, Naruto has some important relationships. Sasuke, very much, but there is no Sasuke Pokemon, so I couldn't just throw a Pokemon and say it's Sasuke. And really, he doesn't have. And I mean, yeah, he's married to Hinata and all that, but there's no Pokemon that really represents one's. There's very few Pokemon that represent the best representation of a single character. There is no Naruto Pokemon. There is no Superman Pokemon. There is a Null Pokemon with Darkrai, but there are exceptions. You can if you really thought on it, you could find a character that exists in fiction or real life and stick a Pokemon to them. But it's only 800 some odd Pokemon for the thousands upon thousands of characters that exist in fiction. So that actually made things a bit more difficult. So let's get into where I kind of fell on the scale here. So the first one I actually want to address right now is one that I don't think a lot of people would think about, but hear me out on this. And that is Absol. Now, why Absol? It seems like an out of the left field kind of choice. But one of the big reasons is I needed a Pokemon that could learn Double Team, because I needed a Pokemon that basically could do a Shadow Clone technique. Now there's Substitute, but there's already a substitution jutsu out there. Any ninja can learn that, so that's not exclusive to Naruto. And Naruto's used it. We've seen him use it, but still. No, but Naruto, his trademark technique was the Shadow Clone jutsu, and Double Team is pretty much the best we have for that. So I need a Pokemon that can learn Double Team. And there's plenty of Pokemon that can learn Double Team. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll show myself out. I'm back. Sorry. But when I'm looking, it's like, well, Absol, I've really always liked Absol. Absol's maybe in my top 20 favorite Pokemon. I just like its design, all that. I wish it probably had a pre-evolution. It is one of the Pokemon I think deserved a pre-evolution. Same with like Tropius. That way you could catch it and raise an Absol. I think that was a Pokemon that kind of deserved it. But whatever, it's so cool. It's still got a Mega Evolution, which is pretty good. But the thing is that Absols in their lore are allegedly supposed to be harbingers of disaster. And the thing is, they can sense these things when they're about to happen, but because that, people often shun them and don't want them around because they believe they are harbingers of bad luck and disaster. And really, that's what drew me to Absol more than a lot of other Pokemon, because that is Naruto's childhood in a nutshell. Because a lot of people saw him as the nine-tailed fox, they saw him as a demon, they saw him as someone who would bring destruction, or they just saw him as a pest, and they just shunned him. They did not want him around. They just completely said no to him. Now, obviously, that changed, just as people's opinions on Absol also change. Like, especially people who end up training them and raising them. Because Absol isn't the harbinger of destruction. They just can sense when it's about to happen. So they actually try to warn people, but it just gets misinterpreted. So Absol, I actually think is Absol a pretty good fit. Also, it's a pretty strong Pokemon too. It's not a beast of a Pokemon. It doesn't have like legendary Pokemon stats. In fact, let me find Absol's stats right now. Let's see where it actually stands in terms of actual strength. Because Absols are, I know because they get Mega Evolutions. Absols are pretty strong. Even before the Mega Evolution, they're pretty strong. Their base stat total is 465. It's not in even like in the starter tiers, but it is a strong Pokemon. It definitely is a strong Pokemon. And it's a good Pokemon too. It's just like its design. It's also a pretty varied Pokemon in terms of like the attacks it can learn, because it can learn fire, ice, water. I believe it can learn some flying type attacks. Okay, it can't learn flying, but it can learn psychic, obviously dark, fighting, bug. Yeah, it can learn a lot of attacks. Ghost, it can learn quite a bit. So it's a very variable Pokemon too, despite being just pure dark type. So I've always liked Absol, and I think its background kind of gels with Naruto's early background. And the fact that it can learn Double Team is why he got the Shadow Clone Jutsu. And it's why it's on the team. So we addressed actually like flying. Flying is basically the best representation we have of Wind Jutsu in Naruto. So I obviously wanted a wind-based Pokemon on the team, and a flying Pokemon on the team. But there's so many to choose from, like, okay, where the hell can I go with this? And I'm thinking on it, and I'm like, it's like nothing stands out to me. So I'm thinking, well, is there anything really unique about Naruto using Wind Jutsu? And the fact is, Wind Jutsu, despite the fact Naruto ultimately got all the elemental jutsus, all the base 5 anyway, plus some extra when the Tail Beast gave him this chakra, like Lava Release, all that stuff. Although he can't use Wind Release or anything like that. But Wind was always his dominant jutsu, and it gave him the Rasen Shuriken, all things along those lines. So it needed to be a powerful flying type Pokemon to represent the level of Wind Jutsu he was using. And ultimately, and this is really just me deciding, this is one I would swap out if I could think of a better Pokemon. Tornadus. I only say this, really, I only use Tornadus because Tornadus is a legendary Pokemon. Naruto near the end of the war was using some beast level Wind Rasengan. Like that giant massive F-off one he was using to like, I think slice the or try to attack the tree with or something like that. Like it was a powerful Rasengan. Like it was huge. And the level of power just the standard Rasen Shuriken throws out would probably be on a legendary status. They said it would have been an S rank jutsu. So honestly, Tornadus I think is just a solid fit just because of the sheer power Tornadus has as a legendary flying type. It's also one of the only pure flying types there is too. So yeah, but that one I'll be fully transparent. That one I'm willing to have interchanged if someone could actually think of a better one. So the last two are kind of have similar things in common because both have something in common with Sage Mode, but one of them is more towards the Rasengan aspect of that. And first and foremost, let's look at the Rasengan aspect of that. So Rasengan doesn't really have a one-to-one counterpart in terms of Pokemon attacks. The closest we get to is Aura Sphere. So I wanted a Pokemon that can learn Aura Sphere. And there's many Pokemon that actually learn it, but the obvious one is Lucario. Now, the reason I ultimately decided on Lucario is because of the secondary effect of the Aura, not of Aura Sphere itself, but of Aura itself, is that because Lucario can tap into Aura, it basically has a second sense around it. It can move, it can react without looking or doing anything. Much like Sage Mode gives you a much better field awareness of your area. You can react without looking because you can sense things on a much more grand and intimate level. So Lucario, and it meshes. I think it meshes with Naruto's style too. Lucario is a fighting type. It's Naruto is very much a more hands-on, hand-to-hand fighter than someone like oh, I don't know, off the top of my head, like a Shino or something like that. So, and Lucario being a fighting type, and having Steel, which goes with your Kunai. That's me throwing a bone out there. Like, okay, I'm making excuses, but sure. So yeah, so there's a little bit of Sage Mode, but I needed a Pokemon that really represented Sage Mode. And I'm like, okay, Sage Mode. To be in Sage Mode, you got to basically be one with nature. Perfect stillness, all that. Absorb the natural chakra of the environment and, meld it and make it even with your own chakra. Well, I'm like, okay, Pokemon that can be a perfect harmony with nature. That's clearly a grass-type Pokemon. I need a grass-type Pokemon. Okay, so I got that down. What after that, though? Well, I'm like, all right, I'm looking through all this. I'm like, okay, is there any grass type Pokemon that really works for this? Because let's be honest, some Pokemon are grass type without being like plants and being at one with nature in that sense. Some are just grass type because it's thrown on like was that the mythic from the most recent generation, Zaruda, that black monkey that just has vines on its hands. I mean, sure, Shifty's kind of ninja-like, but it's more like a goblin. So I'm like, okay, all right, think. And I get to this guy right here, and he's waiting in the wings here for just a second. And I get to this guy. Whoop. Well, that's the spoilers. I meant to go one below before. And I get to Shaman. I'm like, well, Shaman is literally like a Pokemon of purification, Pokemon that, helps. It's a Pokemon that is kind of like a litmus test for how nature is doing in many ways. Technically, Zygarde is the balancer of nature, but it's not really a Sage Mode Pokemon. But, I mean, Shaman, it is just its base form is a little hedgehog, a Dorito hedgehog, with these flowers for its quills instead. Now, granted, Shaman is also still a freaking mythic, so it is still very powerful. Like, hold on, I think as I already looked at the stats for that, I'm just gonna look up the stats for Shaman real quick. Where is Shaman's stats real quick here? It's still an extremely powerful Pokemon. Where is Shaman? Oh, there is Shaman. Like the second from last. Shaman's stats are... One second. Yeah, its base stat total 600. Despite how it looks, this cute little guy, it's still a beast in battle. If you go Sky form, it's actually more of a beast in battle because its attack goes up. It just loses some defense, which is partly why I chose Sky form over base form, because it gains the flying type, which adds more to Naruto's wind chakra. but its attack is greater than its speed. Which admittedly, Naruto's speed when he's in when he's in Fox mode is greater, but it's his speed is actually greater in Sky form as well, where his defenses go down a little bit. But yeah, it's when you actually break it down, its base form is it's still a mythic Pokemon for a reason. It could still beat up a full a level 100 Shaman could still beat up a level 100 um starter Pokemon, provided it doesn't have a type disadvantage. But yeah, because of what Shaman kind of just represents as a whole in like nature. Hold on, hold on one second. I want to get a Pokedex entry for Shaman up real quick, just to solidify the team real quick here. Let's get the Pokedex entries up here. The Pokedex entry for Shaman basically says, Shaman, the gratitude Pokemon, when hold on. Sorry, that's from the anime. It lives in flower pouches and avoids detection by curling up in a little flower, like a little flower plant. It can dissolve toxins in the air, instantly transform ruined lands into lush fields of flowers. The blooming Gradius flowers confers the power of light upon it, feeling the gratitude and message. Whatever. Okay, that's from Art Soul Silver. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. It can dissolve the blooming. Yeah, they still say it dissolves. It's basically a purifying Pokemon that is living flowers that is designed to basically kind of keep a little bit of a balance in nature. It's a Pokemon that is fully entwined in nature itself, and the Sky form is just more the aggressive combat form of it, which fits Naruto a lot more. So I mean, now to be fair, I would be willing to hear out some different options for a Sage mode Pokemon when it comes to Shaman, and for a Pokemon that represents the Wind Jutsu of Naruto when it comes to Thunderous. Honestly, I had considered Oranguru for the Sage Pokemon, because it is basically a sage that lives in the woods. But it's not a sage in the sense of Naruto, so I decided to go away from that one, and I think that was the best bet for that. But yeah, I do think that Shaman is a pretty solid fit, but I'd be willing to hear a different option. But there are your Pokemon. Ninetales to represent the Ninetales. Greninja to represent Naruto's Toad summoning contract, and in fact, the ninja. Absol for the Shadow Clone, and to fit a bit more with Naruto's backstory about being shunned a lot. Lucario to represent his ability to use aura to sense the surroundings, similar to Sage Mode, and Rasengan, and being a melee fighter, much like Naruto is. Thunderous to represent Naruto's very strong affinity for Wind Jutsu. And finally, Landform Shaman to represent Naruto's Sage Mode, and a bit more of his Wind Jutsu. Ultimately, though, that is just my opinion. What is your opinion? Put in the comments below. Let me know. Whenever I get to the Naruto crossover, I mean, I've already made the team, so I guess in theory this would be the team I make, but I would probably substitute out Thunderous for just a different flying type Pokemon, just because in the story there's no way I'm giving him two legendary. I mean, there's no way I'm getting I'd give a lot of these characters two legendaries. I don't know which one I'd make as a starter though. Would I make Froakie a starter or Vulpix a starter? I guess I would make Vulpix a starter because Naruto starts out with Kurama, so that does make sense. And then maybe, but maybe that's the thing where it's the family Pokemon passed by his mom. There you go. And his actual starter Pokemon is Froakie. So he gets lucks out and starts with two Pokemon. So, I mean, that's something you could consider. And then, I mean, I'm not actually saying this is how the story would play out, but I am saying that, then maybe he'd end up catching Absol a little down as his third Pokemon. He finds the wind Pokemon, whatever that is. So I don't know exactly how I'd go about it. But still, that is my Pokemon team for Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it, it burns when he pees. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, wants to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you folks next time. Later.